Today, let's talk about pleasure, but not pleasure in that sense, but we are definitely talking about sex. Now, think about the culture and tradition that you know. Think about all the things that our religion says, and think about all the plethora of women's issues that we have out there. Things like women are promiscuous, so of course, cut off their clitoris and other parts of their external vagina depending on where she's from. Child brides, marriages, and all the other acts, barbaric acts that have been melted to women across different generations. And also think about our religion and how our religions describe or places women. But anyway, we are not talking about all those big things and other plenty issues today. What we are talking about is purity culture. If you don't know what purity culture is the standard that our society and our religion holds women accountable to. Purity culture is a set of beliefs that religious groups uphold by means of educating and social gatherings that make young men and women responsible for their sexual behavior. Purity culture has always impacted how people see themselves and also them develop a set of internalized oppression, shame, and judgments. And these systems can worsen racism, misogyny, and rape culture. Sometimes the church teaches it as a way to signify modesty, when in reality, it places a lot of shame and burden on women, and they use it as a weapon against women. I believe by now, if you didn't know what purity culture is, you already have an idea or an inkling of what purity culture is. You can agree with me that for a few years now, we've had a lot of Christian couples come online and share their experiences about how they got into marriage and they were so confused as to what to do. They do not understand how the actual act of sex works. I think that traditionally, we think that women are not supposed to enjoy sex. Okay, I say it again. So I think that we think that women are not supposed to want sex. Women are not supposed to enjoy sex. The act of sex for women should only be for procreation. And so, our churches do not teach anything. And neither am I saying that churches should teach or encourage sex. But I mean, if you think about the plenty teenage pregnancies that we have, and think about the church, and think about where you're from, and think about your vicinity, you would already know that whether you're teaching these things or not, boys and girls are going to be indulging in these acts. So as a community, I do think that if you do not want people to practice fornication, at least you should be able to teach safe sex, especially for men and women who are already going into the, marriage, especially during counsel. So because our religion and society even shines the light on sex as this thing that is supposed to be impure, this thing that is supposed to be dirty, a lot of Christian couples end up in a situation where 6 months to a year after marriage, they don't know how to do the do. Our religious book says that masturbation and fornication is a sin. Okay. Why it does say that it's a sin, it doesn't say that it is wrong in marriage, right? Now, if because of purity culture, you have told men and women that this thing is a sin, they should never look at themselves, they should never understand how their body works, and all the yada, yada, yada. How do you expect that this thing that you have so preached to these young men and women, all of a sudden in marriage, you expect them to, automatically know what it means or what they are supposed to do? So I think it's a hypocrisy that goes on in churches for me. You do not expect your congregation or your members to know the actual act of sex. You do not even expect them to know about their body, because looking at yourself or trying to figure out how your body works is seen as masturbation. To be frank with you, I think that half the time men don't have this problem. And they don't have this problem because I feel like their pleasure is one directional. So a man just goes into the woman's body and, he does whatever and he gets to get the peak of his satisfaction. For women, on the other hand, it's a different ballgame. And so, because our holy books for all the religion that you can think of right now, thinks about sex as this impure thing. Even our culture teaches the act of sex or a woman's body generally, a woman's, vagina as an impure place. Now, you teach all of these things from the childhood to the teenagers on up until the point of marriage. Now, at the point of marriage, you now expect that when you wed these two people, they go home and they get the actual act of sex done, right? Now, I'm not saying that it is a bad thing. Neither am I saying that, churches should start teaching sexual education. Maybe they should start teaching sexual education, age-appropriate sexual education. But what I'm driving at is not even sexual education in that light. I think that because of purity culture and how it places a lot more pressure on women see their bodies or their vaginas as this impure thing, as this thing they cannot even look at or touch by themselves to understand how it works. I get it. You guys know what the Bible says about masturbation and fornication, and neither am I saying that I'm encouraging it. It's the same way that I will make an analogy with drunkenness, right? I think that while the Bible doesn't explicitly say do not drink, it does say that a man should know his fuel, right? So if you know that your drinking is going to cost you to act foolish, then the Bible advises that you quit doing it. Now, for masturbation, on the other hand, I think that there is the getting to know your body. And then there is the masturbation where it affects your normal life functioning. And then there is the, you're not even supposed to act like you know that there is something in your bodies. I feel like it's weird. And it's weird because the Bible was written at a time where, because if you think about some of the marriages, some people that got married in the Bible, they got married really early, and which is the same way that some of these other religions or some of these cultures excuse child brides. And I think that we need to start changing our approach, the way we teach our young girls and boys even to think about sex as this impure thing. Yes, you can teach it as, sex outside of marriage being a bad thing, but not the actual act of sex itself as a bad thing. God is not foolish. God who created sex isn't foolish. And at the same time, I'm going to say that when men talk about women who talks about sexual compatibility and talk about it from a standpoint of, you've tasted so many men out there, and that's why you're talking about not being sexually compatible with the person. Because most of the time it's men that bring up these conversations, right? So when they talk about how sexual compatibility shouldn't be a thing, and it's only a thing because as a woman you've tasted several other men, and that's why you can now say that, this is something I prefer. And sometimes it's a myth because it has to do with size, it has to do with dexterity, and all of that bullshit. Now, I think that it is men who are actually very promiscuous and men who think that they may have a problem that usually talks about these things in that manner or in that way. And the reason I say this is because since purity culture doesn't ever include men, men are allowed to do whatever they want to do. Men are allowed to be with whoever they want to be. And even in churches, the the way that churches look at women, look at the boy and the girl who has committed the same act is actually different. Is actually different. Whether you like it or not, it is actually different. The same way is that you can, figure out in marriage that, wait, is this how sex is supposed to feel? Because I won't lie to you, for a lot of women, pleasure is not one directional. And it takes me to the next thing I want to talk about. Your clitoris, as far as I know, medically, scientifically, there is no function that it provides or it gives unto women other than for pleasure. And this is another thing that I think that churches kick against, even in counseling. I don't think it's wrong in marriages for you to work with toys, sexual toys for pleasure. Neither do I think that it is wrong for a woman to be pleasured, for her clitoris to be pleasured, because that's the only way that she gets off. What I'm saying in essence is, masturbation is wrong, masturbation is wrong. I think that every man and woman out there should know the actual act of sex and how it functions and how it makes them feel, how their body works. If they don't know this, at least we would have less issues with women who are going into marriage blind and thinking the only thing that they need to know about sex is staying for your husband to get his actual pleasure from your body and also carrying a child to full term. Do you know how many women out there who never orgasmed just because they think that even trying to touch their bodies to figure out how it works or how it makes them feel is a sin? This is not me trying to say that don't do what your Bible says or don't do what your Quran says or your holy book says. But this is me saying that think about men out there and how easy it is for them to get sex. And think about the number of women in marriages who have never understood the actual act of sex. And think about how they are in this bondage simply because of culture and religion. That's just all I'm saying. I'm not saying go out there and have sex with people. I am saying you need to be able to look at your vagina as something good from God. You need to be able to look at every part of your vagina that's been given to you by God himself and think about why he would create these parts of your body that we know that is only for sex or for pleasure, and think about why he wouldn't want you to enjoy sex. Yes, abstinence, especially in this economy, is the right thing to do. It will save you from contracting STIs. It will save you from unwanted pregnancy. To save you from putting your whole life on pause for a person who doesn't even want you like that. So yes, I am an advocate of, before you think about getting down with somebody, think about all the issues that can arise from this thing. While I say that, I am also an advocate of know yourself. Religion places a lot of burden on women. If you want to abstain from sex because of your own personal religious beliefs, good and fine. But I think you should do that while also learning about it. Not learning about it from the standpoint of, oh, I want to go and practice this thing right now. But learn about it for the sake of knowing how your body works and saving everybody the stress and the time you come online to come and disturb us about how you and your husband haven't been able to get the actual act of sex done. This is today's video. Thank you for watching. And see you in the next one.